Quiet, please. The voice of Maui.
Welcome to The Nature of Your Nature. Come home to You Know More with Dr. Valerie Simonson on KAKU 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui, broadcasting from Akaku Maui Community Media Center in downtown Kahului. Aloha, welcome to The Nature of Your Nature. I'm Dr. Valerie Simonson, and the volunteer president for our sponsor, which is You Know More. And You Know More is dedicated to healthcare providers, first responders, EMS people, educators, and community leaders giving restorative care. And today have we got a special one for you. This is one of our community leaders that you may have seen a lot on Akaku and definitely out in the field with the camera asking the questions. But today we get Chivo Ching-Johnson right here, and we're going to be asking the questions.
Yes, and it is a very happy opportunity for me to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Chivo. You know, we've known each other for a long time, and your beloved Valerie.
Yes.
Right? And you both are amazing leaders in the community. And I will say often unseen, which is pretty amazing that I'm going to just speak for you because Val isn't here right now, but you guys just keep on doing what is the right thing to do.
Yeah. As much as I have the wherewithal to do. And, you know, it seems that as much as I like, you know, front work, like stage, and it seemed so appropriate for me to be able to tell the stories that needed to be told and to explain the government and by showing the government and and all of that and just clarify a lot of misconceptions and things. And it just feels like the right place for me to be is sort of off camera.
Well, today we got you on camera. And,
yes.
You know, I'm going to go back to 8/9/23, and I was doing all kinds of things to try to get through the Department of Health to try and offer care. And next thing I know, my truck is driving right here into Akaku.
Yeah.
Walked in, and then within a few minutes, I was on the show with you.
That's right. Yeah. And what, you know, our world is so amazing, and how sometimes you can try to play off an event as coincidence or whatever, but you know, in our hearts we know that it's just some form of divine intervention.
Totally.
And I love that about our life, you know. And we were just trying to piece together as many truths as possible, because we at Akaku, along with a lot of us in our community, want the truth and only want to speak the truth. And you know, there's such a tendency in these days with social media and such to embellish the truth with your own projections. And that doesn't really serve a purpose except misinformation oftentimes. Not that it's necessarily intentional, but and at Akaku we make a point of being non-partial as much as possible, and speaking the truth as we see it, and as much as we can document that. And that was so confusing and so horrible, those I mean, it's, you know, the fires. And you came in totally frustrated that you were unable to get into Lahaina and start helping.
Yeah. But we were able to sit together.
Yes.
And call it synchronicity, or call it divine alignment. I mean,
Yeah.
we hadn't seen each other in years,
know.
right? I had to borrow your shirt because I had the wrong color shirt for the background. And we just were able to give people tips of what they could do in
Right.
the moment.
Yep.
Reach into their cupboard, maybe get some chamomile tea. We just talked about breathing, things like that, because so much was out of our control,
Absolutely.
right? So we were able to do that. And then somebody asked you, hey, hang around, get on the show with Tony. So Tony and I talked, and, this is what life is really about for me.
Yeah.
And I've really learned the hard way through life, and I think you kind of have too. We don't have to always be swimming upstream.
Right. That is well said. Well said.
Yeah.
And that day was so perfect because gathering these little bits of information, but there's no way to really outline that. You just deal with it as it comes across your desk, and then for you to walk in, it just seemed like there's a chair next to me. It was perfect. It was really good timing, and you feel good when you are able to offer some information and some thoughts that may very well help someone.
Right. And if you just make a difference in one person, that's all you need to do. And then there's the ripple effect, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And where that has taken us, for example, we've applied for a number of grants to try and get programs out through our nonprofit, You Know More.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't received any grant money to do educational programs. So we have been really fortunate with private donors. I mean,
Good.
very fortunate.
Yeah.
But this is a way that we are trying to reach people, to give them information of different options, maybe a different way to look at things.
Yes.
And everybody is a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is a leader. That
Absolutely
woman that's
true.
cleaning the toilets at the airport is my guru.
Right.
Right? I mean, gosh, right? But bringing it back to where you've come from, you have a history of art, studied art, religion,
Yeah, absolutely.
photography.
And I just, my brother gave me a nice SLR camera when I was young, because he had gotten a much better camera. Those were days of your own film. And,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I was in like the 5th grade, and he said, I know that you've always been interested in this, so, do you want this camera? I went, oh, absolutely, So mowing lawns and stuff during the spring and summer, I was able to save money through the winter, and for fishing on the lake, and for taking pictures and buying film and things. So,
Wow.
And there's something about looking at photographs that is so pleasurable to look back and see this image reflected back at you. And that was one of those things that have stayed with me. And, as far as in school, how many false starts did you have in school? They didn't turn out to be false starts at all, but they helped you down the road all the way.
Right. Yeah. And it's really beautiful. What happens sometimes with crises is that our world kind of gets turned upside down, and then we tend to return as creativity. I call it craftivism, taking art as a way to be an activist.
Yes.
And it maybe doesn't mean changing it out there. It's about changing it in here.
Inside. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Which I'm going to bring it back around to the other day. You walked by and you had this beautiful drawing that you had done. And I know you all that are driving, you can't look at it, and you probably won't be able to see it much, but you just doodle. That's what you called it, right?
Yes, doodling.
Doodling.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about doodling. I mean, anybody could do this. And,
Yes.
I mean, this is incredible.
It just feels so good for one thing, my parents were both artists.
Oh.
And my dad had a little art studio, and he let me come in there and work. And I remember one of my older brothers said, "How come you always get to go into Dad's art studio and
That's
he
not
won't
fair."
let me in?" I said, "I don't know. I guess it's because I handle everything like it's expensive." And he said, so that went nowhere. He ended up, but the bottom line was that I just loved being able to just play with colors and lines, and
Wow.
and that has stuck with me my entire life. I have had work in the past where I did a lot of paintings and sculptures and such, and as you get busy with one thing, like with work at Akaku, you end up putting another thing like painting and sculpting on hold. There's just not enough time in your day for it.
Right.
And yet doodling is just something that when I'm thinking or, on a set somewhere, I like recording the Maui Daily. I find myself just doodling all the time, and it really opens up your thought process.
It's actually a physiological thing that happens between the hands and the brain.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that Ram Dass was teaching one day, people were wanting to learn about meditation and enlightenment and all of that kind of thing. And there was a woman in the front row knitting. And he went over to her and he said, "Why are you here?" And she said, "Well, I want to learn what you're teaching." He said, "You already got it. You're already there. It's that moving of the hands, the moving of the fingers. As every time you move your finger, you're actually activating the meridians in your hand that go up into the nervous system, the spleen, the heart, the liver, all the parts of your body by moving your fingers." Right?
I was not aware of the meridians and that, but that does make sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. And when you were talking about doodling, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't think I could do that, because I have a little bit of, well, I'm going to say the word, but I'm really working on this, and perfectionism.
Yes.
And, but one of the things I have found to be useful is I tend to use colored pencils or color pens.
Yes.
And like in medical school, all of my notes were all color coded.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Now that is very cool.
And I didn't know it at that time. And I was out and already in business by the time we got tested, figured this out. I don't see black and white. I see color.
Wow.
So if I were to read a book, if it didn't have color pages or me putting a piece of colored film over the top, it wouldn't go in there as I see color.
Wow.
Right?
Really? So you put color film over your pages when you're reading?
If I were to read. Or I have a thing on my iPad where I can just
You can
put it
change
over
your
and
background,
then
yes.
change the background and so that I can read it.
Neat.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and colors are so freeing. And you don't even need to think about it. They just are. They open up so much of your imagination and your heart. It's amazing. And a lot of my doodles are just pen and paper. But when I'm doing them, I'm seeing squares and circles of different colors behind them and thinking that this line is red, and just imagining colors.
Wow.
And hope to at some point be able to do that back again on canvas.
Oh, that'll be beautiful.
Yeah.
So this piece that I have, I think it's Pele, right?
Yes.
And there's the water, there's the fire, there's the sun, all of that. When you're actually doing this doodling, do you have any idea that that's going to be what it is afterwards?
Well, not particularly. I just let it go, and it starts developing into something. And for example, when I did the curl on her forehead, and then the other line right down there, it just reminded me of hair falling, and I thought of Pele because this reminded me of a mountain.
Yeah.
And
right.
so at that point, I kind of drew in the closed eyes and the lip, but
Beautiful.
it just sort of comes out of you.
Yeah, I remember a sculpture one time. They said the stone will reveal.
Will speak. Yes,
Right?
it will, and
Yeah.
it speaks its own little directions to you.
Yeah,
sort
and
of.
I think I really encourage everybody to think back when they were younger. And someone posted the other day the color crayons that came in the 64 and had
Yes.
the pencil sharpener on
I
the side,
loved it.
right?
I loved
I
it.
remember just smelling them and just
Yes.
looking at the colors. And I wouldn't use them because I didn't want to mess them up,
Yeah,
right?
they all had such perfect little points.
Oh, they did. They did. But it was so beautiful colors,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the smells, the textures. So I really invite everybody to just think about in your life, what has given you pleasure in your past that we would perhaps call art today, but we don't have to have a label like that.
That's true.
We can just say, this is just who I am, right? When I was in medical school, one of the things that I would do after we had a guru from India come and say, you need to meditate more and you'll get better grades.
Right.
Instead of studying, right? So what I did is I picked up my watercolors and I just started painting because that's how I meditate, is with some kind
Exactly.
of a movement, right?
Yes.
But I never let anybody see any of my art. And then there was a leak in the ceiling and they had to move the bed and there's all my art. And my roommates are like, oh my God, Valerie, you are really good at this. And I'm like, yeah. So I made a vow that when I got done with medical school, I was going to go and get trained.
Wow.
As a watercolorist, painter,
Nice.
all of
And
that.
did
man.
you?
I did. I did.
Perfect.
Bozeman, Montana. I started working with this amazing woman, and it was such an experience of understanding who I was, because she would show us what to do, right? And then everybody's supposed to do it. And I don't know, there might have been 12 people in the room, right?
Right.
Well, I was the only one that ever did what she told us to do. But everybody's having a great time,
Right.
except for me.
Oh, and you weren't having
No,
a good
because I'm
time?
trying to do what she told me to do all the
Oh,
time.
So you're trying to follow her instructions to the T.
Yeah, I've been in education for 12 years. I've been told what to think, how to
Right.
do it. This is the results, and da-da-da-da, right? 12 years of that to get a doctorate, right? And so one day she showed us this technique, and I'm like, well, everybody's having fun. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to have fun with it. And she came over to me with tears in her eyes, and she says, you know, Valerie, everybody is born an artist. I can't teach you how to paint, but I can show you some tools that can bring in different dimensions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And that must have been so freeing for you.
It was. And then
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do because I didn't have any instructions.
Right.
Right?
So that you could break them.
Yeah. But one of the things that I love to do is, like if I'm out in nature, almost always I have a little pad and I have my little
Good.
watercolor pencils or
Yeah.
my watercolors and even those cheap things that you could get, right?
But watercolor pencils are really neat because you can not only draw different styles and textures, and then just a little bit of water or saliva or whatever
Yeah.
you have, and you can.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of watercolors, is that the way they just flow together, literally.
And they come out and you look at it and go, oh my gosh, I have a woman on the mountain or whatever
Right,
it is,
yes, yeah.
right?
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
appears that way. Yeah.
And every one of you that's listening to this, you have some kind of skill or gift, or what
Yeah.
would we call that?
Well, it's both of those things, but it's also an urge or a voice somewhere in our own system that we're telling ourselves to try something, and oftentimes we put it down. We deny that, and it's too bad that we haven't been instructed more in our lives on how to free ourselves and how to literally just say, cast all of this stuff aside. I'm just going to have fun with this, you know. It's like studying different religions in college. I decided I wanted to learn more because there was so many staunch Christians around in that area where I went to high school, and in that group of disciplines, there were so many different Christian churches, and I decided that, you know, since I was learning about all of them, I wanted to learn about literally all of the religions, and realized that they all had so many commonalities. They all tell you that mine is the one, and you've got to disavow all of the other ones. You can't be a Buddhist and a Catholic at the same time. You just can't. And they all say that you have to do this, or you know, you might burn your little buns in some crispy fire someplace that you don't want to go.
Yeah.
And that's gonna happen if you don't do what I tell you to do.
Right.
And you know, I just found so much of that really intriguing, and there's so much truth in religions, but so much of the writings and the lessons and the disciplines are so man-made. It is just difficult to get behind.
You know, our television show that was through Akaku for 2 years, we were one of the top in the state. It's called The Doctor Is In, which was way before all of that was famous. You know, we talked about yoga. Oh, my God. And we had art therapy. We had music therapy. We had all these things that were relatively taboo, in especially in medicine. But our first show, we had a Buddhist Lama, and we had a Christian minister. We had New Age minister. We had Samoan medicine person, and I can't remember what there was a Hawaiian kahu.
Oh, neat.
And I didn't tell him what I was going to do, and I just asked him to talk about what the bottom line was in what they're teaching, right?
Yeah.
And so they shared, and they had X number of minutes, right? And then I was able to pull that thread through all of that. They were all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Love and kindness.
Yes. And isn't that the truth right there in a nutshell?
Yeah.
And that's what I felt too, and really appreciated from beginning studying of theology, is that, you know, aside from all the other things that they have in common, love and kindness and some of those basic things is really all you need to take out of anything in life. And you need to really forgive yourself for what you're not doing, and just be happy for what we have in our world.
Which goes back to worthiness.
Yes.
Right? Which we were talking about earlier. And I've decided that is not a topic that I use in my world, but it goes back to value.
Yeah.
And when I say value, it's VALYOU. Value.
Yes.
You know more. Right? And when we come back to, like, even the word perfectionism, I took a class the other day with a nonprofit here, and we had 2 words to play with. One was perfectionism, and you could write about it, you could draw. And I drew a picture of me laying on the ground with a sword going into my abdomen and blood coming out.
Wow. And
that's what I wrote for perfectionism, right? And then the other word that they used was excellence. And what I drew was a picture of a happy-go-lucky, having fun person that was totally contained and confident, assured. And in that awareness of just using 2 words, perfectionism and excellence, how that changed my whole view of myself.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
most of my life, I have tried to be perfect.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And look at the image that you pulled out of yourself at that
Totally.
at that thought.
Yeah, and I always dealt with anemia.
Yeah.
Always dealt with anemia. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? And that's the beauty. One thing about the art is it'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
I had a small girl that came to me and urinary tract infection, which there was nothing wrong with. I mean, all the tests were normal. Did all this herbs, did homeopathy. Nothing was working. And one day I went, it'd been probably a month, and I went, I'm just going to have her draw a picture. And she drew a picture of herself, and in her tummy was an apple, and there was a worm coming out of the apple.
Oh, man.
Now, at that time, she came from a very wealthy family, and parasites were only if you went to Mexico or something like that, right? And certainly this child was not exposed to anything like that, right? But we tested, sure enough, she had worms. Treated the worms, never.
She did.
She did. And I never saw her again. And then years, maybe 15 years later, more, I saw the mom at a store, and I said, how is your daughter? And she says, she never was sick again.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
And how would she intrinsically know that she had worms, of all things?
That was the beginning of You Know More.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
it became, instead of filling out a paper that says, do you have this? Do you have that? Have you ever experienced this? Do you have a family history of that? I had people draw a picture.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I had a
Very
guy
good.
with a brain tumor, and he was in tough shape, but he drew a shaky picture, and then he showed the thing in his brain, and then a squiggly line down into his intestines, and there was an X there. He put an X there. So I called the neurologist, and I said, let's do a parasite test on him. Sure enough, parasites.
Be darned.
It was an amoeba. And this kind of brain tumor is not like it's an amoeba kind of brain tumor.
Yeah.
It moves like an amoeba. He knew.
Yep.
He
Yep.
knew,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. My wife Valerie is so good at, and I'm sure part of all of these things are interlaced with people she has known and learned from. But she is very, very good at reading and being aware of self-diagnosis and knowing ourselves and what's really going on in our bodies will tell us what we should be eating and what we shouldn't be eating, and so many things, many. And this is really amazing to have people draw pictures of what might be going on and to see how exactly accurate that is.
I've never seen it be wrong.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
Yeah, it really is. But going back to that innate wisdom, which is the nature of your nature,
Yes.
right? To listen to that, and then to have the courage to say, oh. And we had a conversation one day, and we were talking about, it's been hard on Maui.
Yeah.
It's been hard, and it's been sad.
So definitely true.
Yeah, and a lot of lung problems, a lot of grief, right? The emotion of the lungs is grief. And we talked about that particular day. It was a darker, there wasn't a lot of sunshine out there with what wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And I said something to you that just still stays with my heart is, think about everything that you did. You were consistent. You showed up. You were kind. You were caring. And really, what more do we need to do in the world? And although there are people out there that are the activists in another way, they're doing the protests and all of that kind of thing. But when you have the gift of, it's all about choices, I guess, too.
Yes,
right?
too. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. There's probably a day that you did wave a sign, right?
I've waved a few.
Yeah, I bet.
Yes, but you know, it really does come down to people's worth. I don't think somebody asked me, why are you always smiling?
Right.
And I remember being a smiley little kid, and people used to tease me that I was the smiley little fat kid because I was really large when I was little.
Really? That's hard to imagine.
I was large. And when I was puzzled by that, my grandparents who raised us would show me a picture of my grandmother's little brother, or my Uncle Bill, or great Uncle Bill. And he was weighing in at 340 pounds, 320 pounds, and very large. And it showed me a picture of him when he was in 6th grade or so, and showed me a picture of myself at that age, which was 5th or 6th grade. And they said, you guys are like the same person.
Wow.
And, you know, so don't worry about it. This is just who you are. Mm. And I went, oh, no, that isn't.
Wow.
I went on a diet in the summer of the 6th grade. I pedaled my bicycle down to the store and went through every diet book there was.
Really?
Yeah, and found a new author called Atkins, The Diet Revolution.
Right.
And it made sense to me. And so I went home and announced at dinner that I was starting a new diet, and the laughter in that room was really good for me. It made me smile, not because of any reason other than that I was going to show them that they were all wrong.
Isn't that just great when somebody just does that? And
Yes.
It's just like there's some comes up inside of you and like, no, but you know what? I'm going to do this.
You
if
don't
nothing
understand.
else, I'm going to show you, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was really, really amazing to me that it all made sense for me. And that plus, you know, puberty and water skiing and hiking and everything else. I lost a lot of weight, and even to this day, I don't eat a lot of unnecessary carbs. I just don't have the interest in them. Mm-hmm. But another thing that came out of that was that the smiling fat kid that they always called me about, when I see people, it makes me smile. It makes me happy for some reason, even if I have no idea who they are or what they are, because there's something about people that is really special if they would just understand that they are.
Wow.
You know, the nature of their nature.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of amazing to think of and to know people and realize I wish they could see themselves the way I see them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody you want to go up and hug, you know, but...
Well, no, you got to be a little discerning, right?
You certainly do.
Yeah. Right.
But
there is goodness in everyone.
there really is.
Yeah. There is goodness. And as long as we can see that and then take the appropriate steps. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was in medical school and I was working at a Native American rehabilitation center.
Oh, wow.
And they brought in a gentleman that had, I think, taken 10 lives.
Oh.
And they brought him in to get him clean before he went to prison. He's, wearing chains. And I got to be his doctor, right? and he said, if I could get up, you'd be number 11 or whatever it was he said to me. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty profound. But he had 24-hour guard, right? And so I started working with him. But I remember looking at him, somehow recognizing there was some good in there.
Yeah. Yes.
And so what we got to do for X amount of time, I don't remember how long he was in that treatment, but when he left, he was able to look in the mirror and smile. He knew he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison for what he had done.
Yes.
But his background was he was in the Christian, Catholic church. He was a Native American. We don't need to talk about that story, but all of that went on. But when he left, he had that smile.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And, he was going to spend a lot of time with himself. And I can only hope that enlightened him for that journey ahead.
It definitely had opened up a door that had gotten shut down.
Yes.
When he was very small from the trauma, right? And
imagine what kind of trauma you go through to be a killer of people for no reason.
And we can talk about choices, right? But a lot is there just doesn't seem to be any other way. But and this is a little esoteric, and I know you kind of like esoteric things, is it really isn't that they don't like them, it's that they don't like themselves. And why is it? I had a gentleman that was part of the Vietnam War. And the first call that we had, I was an EMT, first call, he had shot himself.
Yeah.
And in the face or in the mouth. Well, it didn't take his life.
Oh.
And then the second time we get a call, he had taken and hung himself.
Oh.
And the rope broke. So he had a broken leg, right? The third time he took a bunch of pills and alcohol, and he threw up and aspirated. He had pneumonia. Now, every time we took him, we had to take him to the VA to get help, right? And he was part of the Vietnam story that was atrocious, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And then the fourth time he stabs himself right here in the shoulder with one of those little tiny knives. And I'm in the back of the ambulance, and he died. And I gave him CPR. And then, we transferred him up once he got stable, and he went to the VA again. Well, then years later, I was back in my hometown, and he walked into the store or into the restaurant, and he said, "You remember me?" And I said, "Oh, do I ever remember me?
Yes.
Or remember you?" And he says, I took you for a lot of rides, didn't I?" And I said, "You did.
Yeah.
You did." And he said, "I figured it out. Until it's your time, it's not your time."
Well put.
Right?
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you've gone
Unbelievable.
through in your life,
Yeah.
we do have an opportunity to understand there's a reason why you're still alive.
Yep.
Right? And what is it that is calling?
An opportunity to fix it.
Fix it within yourself.
That's exactly right.
And if it means...
And he wasn't very good, obviously, at suicide. So he might as well try to fix himself in a positive way.
Well, that's where we got to look a little bit esoterically. If it's not your time, it's not your time.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
And all of you that are listening right now, there's a reason why you're here.
Yeah,
there's a
there
reason
is.
why you're listening.
Yeah.
And what is it that you bring? And I know that day that I saw the picture of Pele, and you're just doodling after you'd been on the television, and I'm like, my gosh, I've been just looking at this for weeks, and I just see all kinds of stories in there. So healing for me.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And we never know what's going to resonate with you or with ourselves or with other people.
And it doesn't matter what it resonates with anybody else if it resonates with you, right?
Yep.
Right.
With you.
That's
correct.
that you have really shown me. There's no perfectionism in here.
No.
Right? It
No.
just is what you do. One of the ways that you calm your nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Because every time you make a doodle, there's something that happens to the brain between the hands and the feet, or the hands and the brain, right?
Right.
And that's a way of, quote, self-medicating that isn't an addiction.
Yes, which is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, in your work, what do you think is the most beneficial thing that you have learned outside of medical school as far as your practice is concerned? I mean, I know that you always offer thoughts and remedies, and for example, your sponsor has the spray like kindergarten,
Yeah.
which is so good. I really enjoy taking that before I go on the air, and and there's a number of them. But what things do you feel have really brought something special that you've come upon or thought of outside of school?
When I was in Ecuador, and I was getting ready to leave this little place I was staying, and I heard some yelling, and there obviously somebody's hurt. And I got down, and there was a woman there was blood everywhere.
Ooh.
And I don't speak Spanish worth a darn. Hola. That's about it.
Right.
But I took this woman and I held her in my arms. And then we ended up on the ground,
Yeah.
right? And then someone showed up that spoke English and Spanish, and so then they start telling me what's going on here, right? And she had been stabbed, and by another woman.
Wow.
And I'm looking at the crowd, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's probably still some danger here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was an hour and a half. I just held this woman in my lap. She had passed, but I told the guy that was interpreting, I said, we're not going to tell anybody because we don't know what the surroundings are, right?
Exactly.
And so I just held her in my arms, and her eyes are open, and I put a little smile on her face, right? And then finally the police showed up and the ambulance, and we don't even need to speak. It's obvious that she was gone.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, what happened was amazing, because the villagers turned on one another. They turned on the person that sold the knife. They turned on the family of the woman that had the knife, and it turned into this absolute chaos.
Wow.
And it was dangerous, very dangerous.
Yeah.
And what I decided to do, I got an interpreter to go with me, and we went and we visited with every one of those people that had been affected by this tragedy. And in that whole time, I was robbed, and they took everything.
Oh,
And I remember kind of what they look like. And when I was at the police station, and they're asking more questions and all of that, and then I'm reflecting on this situation with the community, what I came to understand, everyone is basically kind. Sometimes they do things in order to survive. Like that guy that stole my things. He was part of all of this. And, I don't know his story. Right? And I didn't know the story till later about the women, right?
Right.
But inside of everyone is kindness.
Yes.
And so one of my most valuable tools and gifts, if I may say, is always to see that goodness.
Yes.
Right? Inside of someone.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and to be able to sense that on a large level.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean I go up to everybody and give them a hug.
No, exactly
but
not.
If we are able to look into someone's eyes, if that's appropriate, and if not, even just trust that your belly, right? Yeah, you can go here, or you can't go there. Then it's like we have the opportunity to bring in the love.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
As everybody has a story, and we don't know what that story is.
That's absolutely true.
Right.
And that lends itself to all forms of judgment as well.
Yes, it does. It does. But what you have done here is, from my experience, and now we're sitting here and I'm interviewing you. This is so awesome. Your love for the land, your family, the plants and the animals,
Yeah.
right? And that really feeds your soul.
Yes. It really does. Yes. And I am also adding to that, our community really, really continues to motivate me. I love
Wow.
I love the people in our community for the most part, and see so many things that need to be remedied and fixed. It makes me want to continue to tell stories, and filmmaking is something that I love doing too. But when you put them all together, it just ends up with a whole basket full of love, and I'm really happy to be able to say that.
Yeah.
I mean, not to sound pretentious, but
No.
it's really true.
The first day of the fires, I painted on the back of my truck, "Here's hope."
Oh, nice.
Huge letters in pink. And those first couple weeks, everybody was driving really slow, and there
Yes.
was the honk and there
Yeah.
was the wave. That changed quickly, but we went faster and faster.
Yeah.
But I want you just, if you would be so kind, just to touch the essence of hope. From your experience,
Yeah.
being a child, going through the school of hard knocks, all of these
Mm-hmm.
things that you've done, tell us a little bit about hope.
Hope. Well, I'll tell you, I think all of us have so many difficult experiences. I mean, that's part of life is working our way through a lot of these things. And for me, growing up in a household that was full of love and artistry and neat things, and in the opposite sense, full of anger and alcoholism and things that sort of tried to negate, the good things, the love and the paintings. And my parents painted on our walls, and in our
Wow.
bedroom we had trapezes, and my dad and mom painted a little bird tug at the top of the door, tugging on a worm that went down to the bottom of the door.
Oh, how fun.
And the little worm's eyes were like, oh no.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the bird was like all fierce. But stuff like that was so fun and cool. But realizing that over all sorts of experiences growing up, that nothing really is as it seems. That we see something or going through something and we think, oh man, this really sucks, and I'm never going to be okay with this. And then you turn the corner and something is just in full blossom, and it is just like, wow.
Yeah.
And over and over and over again, I have had the opportunity to see that not only is nothing really like it seems, but that we have a lot of power over how we change it.
Ooh,
And
I love that.
we don't often acknowledge that.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Dr. Simonson, I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And in the light in your eyes and the smile twitching on the edges of your mouth says, oh, you do.
Yeah.
You do know what to do. You just have to get there.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful when you realize that we do have, it's not like superpowers, it's what we're all given.
That's right.
It's all human beings get to share all of these gifts.
Yeah.
And just by saying, okay, I'm going to turn that one up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I really think that that's why I feel so hopeful about things. And I had a dear friend who was much older than I, and we called him Old Bill, although, it's like, anyway. And one time, he turned around and I made a comment to him, and he turned around and he looked at me and he says, "Remember, nothing is as it seems."
Wow.
And I had that revelation time and again by then, and I went,
Wow.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
So other people use the exact same words to describe, to hit home. And I always see him saying that now when I think of it. And
Wow.
it's just a neat little thing.
Yeah, I remember being taught this acronym for HOPE was help open people's eyes. Help open people's eyes.
Nice.
And that's one of the things that I've seen you do in your service to the island, to the world, is that you help us get a little bit of perspective, see things from a different angle, right? Because we all have that opportunity to open our eyes.
Yeah. And that's very nice to say. I really would love to be able to do that. And it's nice to hear that you say that I do.
Yeah, well, it's the truth. And, another acronym of HOPE is heart open in positive embrace.
Wow.
Isn't that
That's
beautiful?
Nice. That is really nice.
Because if we can just keep our heart open,
Yep.
and that doesn't mean deny what
No.
you're feeling, if you're angry, if you're sad, and all of that, but to be open to possibilities. Open to possibilities, and then move forward with whatever your soul is asking you to do, whether it's to do a sign or whatever, whatever it is, and to be that activist, be to create your own sovereignty,
Yep.
right, of who you are.
Yeah, and I like that saying, to create your own sovereignty.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we find ourselves sort of tied up in circumstances, but we can change things ourselves, for ourselves and for those right around us too.
Yes.
And fear has so much to do with all of that as well. Being afraid to do things.
Yeah.
Which is another one of those self-created little prisons we put ourselves in.
I love that. And, in the Native American, I've lived with Lakota a number of times, and they brought it into our attention that what we eat, we become. So a cow in a storm will turn its butt to the storm, and the cold air will go up and it'll freeze them. A buffalo will face the storm.
Really?
Yeah. So one of my little things that I have that I look at is face your fears. Face the fear.
Face the fear. That's right.
Right? And because if you turn around and
you're going to end up with a frozen okole. Absolutely.
Yeah. And with that being said, it's also like what we're eating. We are what we eat. And if we're eating foods that are highly processed,
yes,
or a diet that is like I'm just going to go back to Lakota, this buffalo is sacred.
Yep.
And it does something different with the body than Kellogg's Fruit Loops or whatever.
Right, yes.
Right?
Yeah. And there's a lot that I don't believe we were ever intended to eat, because so much of it is laboratory grown, and that really tells us a lot right there.
And going back to your nature, the nature of your nature is to listen, right? And then if somebody says that ain't going to happen, like that happened to you when you were in 6th grade, you just, let me show you, right?
Right, yes.
There's just something about that fires me up, like, okay, I'm going to show you I'm going to do this, right?
Yes, exactly.
And then if you have a situation where maybe there's a deficiency of some kind, then you get help. You ask for help.
Yeah.
Because there's always somebody out there that has the skills that can help with whatever it is that you
Yes.
need help with.
Absolutely.
And we're not here alone,
Yep.
right? But we are the captain of our own ship.
Right. Right.
And that's why what we think, a smile,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to change the vibration in a group, just smile and see what happens.
That's
right.
That's
Right?
absolutely true.
And then there's also the smirk. It's like, okay, what are you thinking about here, right? And that's okay too.
yeah. Well, a smirk paints a picture.
It paints a picture.
Just like any smile will do too.
Yeah, I remember one time being told your silence is deafening. I didn't have to say a word. They could just read it on my body.
Right.
And I never did. It never went anywhere. It didn't need to. That wasn't mine.
Yes.
It wasn't mine. And, we're going to close this up with keep your oars in your own boat. Keep your oars in your own boat.
Yeah.
Be who you are with that ever evolvingness that we have the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
And then bring it back home
Yeah.
to that smile, right? That happiness, and to see that the beauty around you.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that you've done for the world, Chivo. I'm honored to be sitting here across from you and to help serve the world with you. Is there anything you'd like to close? We have 1 minute.
1 minute. No, I would just like to thank you also for inviting me here. This has been a really unique and pleasurable hour. And I would also just like to remind people that they really are not alone.
Yeah.
And that there are so many people around us that are willing to help if you just have the courage to let them know what you're going through.
Yeah.
If you're in need of help of any
Right.
kind.
Yeah.
And if you're not, share your joy with them, because
Right.
they can sure use that too.
That's right.
you know?
Well, thank you for sharing your joy with us today, Chivo. It's been a real pleasure to have you here. And the nature of your nature, you know more. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Ahoy
you.
ho.
Aloha, freedom of speech, the right to express opinions without government restraint, is a democratic ideal that dates back to ancient Greece. In the United States, the First Amendment guarantees free speech. Though, like all modern democracies, the United States places limits on this freedom. The Bill of Rights provides constitutional protection for certain individual liberties, including freedoms of speech, assembly, and worship. But not all speech is protected under the First Amendment. Limitations on speech could include